The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100.
Hello, everyone. We hope you had all a great Thanksgiving. We, in our long-standing tradition, ate too much and then put up the Christmas tree and decorated Randy's mom's house. So, how about y'all?
Well, we got a big family, so we have to spread our time and love, I'll put it that way, all over the place. And so Thursday, yeah, all over Georgia pretty much. But
on the road.
Thursday was Gwinnett County, Atlanta, with my brother. And then Friday was my house with my wife's family. And then Saturday, today, we'll be out at her family's house. So
wow,
a little bit of here, a little bit of there.
So Monday you go to work and rest.
Exactly. Monday will be my vacation at work.
Right. Corey?
I went down to Florida for the Thanksgiving, and I hung out with some old cousins, got to meet their new kids I haven't ever met before, and then had another little Friendsgiving with my friends down there.
Nice. Down there chasing iguanas again?
Yep.
Year round.
Y'all should see the video of that. It's pretty fun. So
excellent. Headline. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent delivered a bullish outlook on the U.S. economy while defending the Trump administration's approach to inflation, tariffs, and geopolitical risks. In a wide-ranging interview on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, he told moderator Kristen Welker that key components of the administration's economic agenda, ranging from border policy to trade agreements, are already easing pricing pressures and setting the stage for stronger growth in 2026. Bessent pointed to what he called the 3 I's that has been killing Americans: immigration, interest rates, and inflation, and stated that the administration's border actions, falling interest rates, and easing energy costs have begun improving affordability.
All right. And air traffic controllers, technicians with perfect attendance during the shutdown get a $10,000 bonus, the FAA says. Close to 800 air traffic controllers and technicians with perfect attendance during the 40-plus day shutdown will get these cash bonuses. There are about 11,000 fully certified air traffic controllers in the United States, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said these patriotic men and women never missed a beat and kept the flying public safe throughout the shutdown. And last week, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, not to be one-upped, said the TSA officers who screen passengers at airports would also receive the $10,000 bonus for perfect attendance.
Good for them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, a carry trade. You may have heard this if you follow markets at all in the last couple of weeks, and really in the last couple of years, there's been some concern about the Japanese yen carry trade. A carry trade is an investment strategy that involves borrowing money at a low interest rate and investing it for a potentially higher rate somewhere else. The term typically refers to currency carry trades made through foreign exchange markets. The basic idea behind carry trades is taking advantage of the low interest rates to borrow and invest money. Currency carry trades are most common. As an example, an investor borrows money in a currency that has a low rate and then uses it to invest at a higher rate in another country, like the U.S., for example. So the Japanese yen, just about zero. Well, here's the example. Let's say you borrow Japanese yen at 0.25% interest and invest that in the U.S. Treasury in T-bills at 4.5%. You're going to pocket the 4.25% profit on the difference from what you borrowed. assuming the exchange rates don't fluctuate. Excuse me. Investors who carry trades often also use futures contracts to take an even more leveraged position and multiply their returns, or if the trade goes against them, their losses.
All right. So, what are the pros and cons of carry trades? During periods of low volatility in foreign exchanges or forex markets, carry trades can work out very well for investors. They can borrow money at extremely low cost and put the money in any type of asset they expect to perform well. That could be conservative investments such as treasuries for guaranteed returns, or it could be higher growth investments such as exchange traded funds, which is ETFs, or individual stocks. The biggest risk is the change in the market conditions and, in turn, the exchange rate for the currencies you're using. Imagine you borrow a yen to trade with the U.S. Dollars. If the yen rises in value during the trade, you're going to need more dollars to pay back what you borrowed. When carry trade strategy is no longer affordable, it leads to an unwinding of the carry trade or reversing of the carry trade. An unwind is when the traders exit their positions and as quickly as possible, selling the investments they made with borrowed money and repaying their loans. Time is often of the essence in this situation. If you don't get out quickly, you could end up losing money.
So should you use carry trades with your portfolio? The risk and complexity of carry trades generally outweigh the rewards, especially with currency carry trades. While retail investors can profit from the investment strategy, it requires knowledge of foreign currencies, and you need to monitor the market for any change in exchange rates.
A simpler type of carry trade is getting a low-interest loan or line of credit and using it to invest in an asset with a higher return. Some investors try this with home equity lines of credit, or HELOCs, or a credit card with a 0% APR for an introductory time period, normally by floating bills on the credit card and using the money they save to invest. Either option can work, but your returns are limited by how much you can borrow.
Yeah, and borrowing on credit cards to invest in general is not advisable at all. If you carry a balance over from month to month, your investment return must exceed the already high interest rate charged on the credit card by the credit card companies.
Right, and also anytime you add leverage to your portfolio, you're taking on greater risk. You need to repay your money you borrow, even if the investment you choose ends up losing money.
Carry trades and the 2008 financial crisis. Investors have used yen-denominated loans for carry trades for decades because of Japan's low interest rates, which averaged just 0.1% in the mid-2000s. Both retail and institutional investors borrowed yen and used them to make investments with U.S. dollars and other high-yielding currencies. And during this time period, many investors made carry trades involving subprime mortgages.
Oh, gee.
Right. The 2008 and 9 financial crisis unwound this carry trade. As the subprime mortgage market collapsed, investors rushed to liquidate their positions. The value of the U.S. dollar depreciated compared to the yen, and the interest rates in the U.S. dropped. Because of those conditions, carry trades with yen-denominated loans fell out of favor, although they would later become popular again.
What is interesting to me is that I had come to work with Steve years ago before this, and in 2008 we had to stop out of the market completely for a year to protect our clients' assets. And the only explanation I ever heard from the financial news about was the housing crisis.
Yep.
They never mentioned the carry trade at all the whole time. I mean, this was like a year and a half this went on.
Yep. Yeah, when markets became pretty volatile several weeks ago, I trimmed the portfolios to protect our clients' gains. Nobody in the news or anyone we follow for investment advice mentioned what was going on in our financial systems. Why is that, you might wonder? Well, for decades, the Bank of Japan has maintained a negative interest rate policy. The history of ultra-low rates dates back to the late 1990s and was implemented to strengthen the quantitative and qualitative easing, or QQE, against negative shocks expected from China's slowdown at that time, and reflects the fact that the Japanese economy suffered from the secular stagnation and also from mild but persistent deflation for the past 20 years. The problem was deeply structural, the burst of the bubble economy and its scarring effects in the 1990s, and rapid decrease in aging population that no advanced economies had experienced. And third, the emerging China and following increases in cheap imports have all combined and exerted tremendously negative pressures onto Japan's economic growth and inflation.
Yep. And with ultra low interest rates, small non-manufacturing companies kept their businesses by cutting costs, for example, by hiring more non-regular workers. This strategy was successful in maintaining the status quo of the domestic economy for a while, but it was a fatal mistake for future growth, as innovations to create new business and values were disturbed, and the economy was trapped with a low-wage, low-price equilibrium. This situation has not changed until just recently when the Bank of Japan ended its negative interest rate policy. The main driver of this fundamental policy change was obviously strong results of the annual springtime wage negotiations, revealed just a few days before the policy meeting. According to the initial press release, the average base wage rate has risen by 3.7%, accelerated from 2.3% last spring, and 2.3% was already a historically high increase. This wage growth has also exceeded current inflation rates. Japan's CPI this February recorded an increase of 2.8% year over year. Based on these wage results and related information, the Bank of Japan confirmed the virtuous cycle between wages and prices, an indispensable condition for achieving its 2% price stability target.
The Bank of Japan also said that their negative interest rate policy has fulfilled their roles. Changes in the external environment, such as the aforementioned wage increases, global inflation, and pent-up consumer demand in the aftermath of COVID, has led to inflation in Japan. So these conversations were held in the political sphere and then made public. And unlike the United States, where everything is leaked to the public before decisions are made, the BOJ, behind closed doors, made the decision to end the negative interest rate policy and then made the decision public. When made public, the investors who had borrowed from the BOJ and invested elsewhere to reap the benefits between the borrow rate and the yield on the investment started unwinding or selling their investments to pay back the Bank of Japan loans. Most of what we saw was automated. Automated stops had been set and the sales were made. We hope that provides a little more clarity on what caused at least some of the volatility in the market over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers specifically August of 2024, but this was it was a pretty rough 2 or 3 week span in that month, and that was at the time due to unwinding of the carry trade as well. So we may see, until it completely unwinds, and who knows how long that takes, we may see this, every few months or once or twice a year until things are regulated.
That's right.
With the rates in Japan.
But this is just a little background on why it's happening.
Right.
So
Very
I
good.
hope that helps.
All right, different topic. So this made my day. Mom's $100 Thriftmas budget for 4 kids goes viral on TikTok with creative thrift store finds. I love this lady. Jade Wagler is a mom of 4, and she doesn't want to go into debt for Christmas and is saving so the family can have a nice vacation next year. So she's buying all of her kids' gifts at thrift shops. She's calling it Thriftmas, and she has a following. She is hoping to make a difference by telling people they don't have to overspend and go into debt to enjoy the holiday. I love this. Debt is depressing, so avoiding it going to the new year is a great idea.
Yeah, it is. All right. Next topic is the senior population is booming and caregiving is struggling to keep up. Ann Prisker, an otherwise healthy woman, had elected to have spinal surgery to preserve her ability to walk after having back issues. What Ann and Beth, her daughter, had thought would be a straightforward recovery process instead yielded complications and infections, landing Ann in one assisted living facility after another as her daughter navigated her care. Eventually, by July of the following year, Ann had died. Ann Prisker, a CFP and financial planning columnist at MarketWatch, believed her mom would be back up to speed within a few weeks after the hospital stay, rehab, and some home time. But she had complications, and it was all a lot harder than she thought it would be. But this was not her first time as a caregiver. 5 years before her mom's death, she took care of her father, and before that, her grandparents.
But throughout each of these processes, Pinsker said she noticed a significant shift in the senior caregiving sector. She said that from the level of care that her grandparents received to the level of care that her mom received, prices skyrocketed and services decreased. It's suggestive of a larger trend across the sector as the senior population in the U.S. booms and the labor force struggles to keep up. Recent data from the U.S. Census Bureau found that the population of people ages 65 and older in the country grew from 12.4% in 2004 to 18% in 2024, and the number of older adults outnumbered children in 11 states, up from just 3 states in 2020. And according to the Census Bureau of Labor Statistics, the prices for senior care services are rising faster than the price of inflation.
But the labor force hasn't necessarily kept up with the surge. The demand for home care workers is soaring as the gap widens, with a projected 4.6 million unfulfilled jobs by 2032. That shortage is primarily driven by a combination of low wages, poor job quality, and a lack of upward mobility.
Yep. And on top of that, the jobs at nursing homes are often strenuous and vary in skills depending on the specific needs of each senior, leading nursing assistants to be staffed in difficult jobs that often only pay slightly more than a retail job, despite requiring more training. According to the BLS most recent wage data from May of 24, the average base salary for home health and personal care aides was $16.82 per hour, $16.82 an hour, compared with $15.07 per hour for fast food and counter workers.
That's just so wrong.
Right. Pensker said she saw that shortage play out firsthand. At one of the assisted living facilities she toured for her mother, she noticed nurses wheeling residents into dining hall for lunch at 10:30 a.m., an hour and a half before lunch would be served, because the home did not have enough caregivers to retrieve them at noon. Gruber said there are 3 directions he thinks the country could go in to solve the labor gap: pay more for the jobs, allow more immigration to fill the jobs, or set up better career ladders within the sector.
Wow. For Care.com CEO Brad Wilson, an overwhelming demand for senior care made it clear to the company that it needed to set up a separate category of job offerings. Care.com, which is best known for listing child care service jobs, met the demand and rolled out an additional senior care option, as well as a tool for families to navigate, trying to navigate what would work best for their situations and households. Wilson and the company sees senior care as a $200 billion to $300 billion per year category. Now its company is the fastest growing segment. And as senior population booms, so too does the so-called sandwich generation, whose members are taking care of both their aging parents and their younger children. By 2034, there will actually be more seniors in the country than children, Wilson said, and citing the Census Bureau statistics, senior care is in a crisis.
So my first job out of college was being the activity director at a nursing home. There were 109 patients, and none of them could walk, bathe themselves, etc., and only about 8 were able to move themselves around in a wheelchair. Only one patient had a daughter that dropped by once a week to see her mom. I saw all these people parked in the hallway in their wheelchairs, and I wanted to make a difference. So I started having lots of volunteers coming in, from church choirs to ministers to people who brought in pets, and even had happy hour in the main activity room once a month. I noticed that the staff hated me and went to the social worker for advice, and she said, "They're mad because everybody wants to get out of bed to be part of what's going on, so just keep it up." I lasted a year. It was exhausting, so I can't even imagine what it's like now. The one constant that I am sure of is that the more people who visit a person in a facility, the more attention that person will likely get.
Yeah, it's a bad situation all around, I think.
It is.
Okay, are stocks a better bet than Social Security? Don't let social media's latest investing hot take lead you astray on timing your retirement benefits. Years ago, politicians proposed putting stocks into Social Security. These days, the trendy advice is to put your Social Security into stocks. On TikTok and YouTube, dozens of financial advisors and other finfluencers, they're called, are posting videos urging people to start claiming Social Security as early as possible, which is age 62, so that they can invest the monthly retirement benefits into the stock market. That flies in the face of traditional advice to delay Social Security as long as possible, which is until age 70 if you possibly can. The longer you defer, the higher your monthly benefit will be for as long as you live. Conventional wisdom is often wrong. Not this time. Taking Social Security early just to invest the money in stocks is a bad idea for most people.
You never guess from the fast-talking finfluencers, though. If you're in your early 60s, don't smoke, have a college degree, and earn a middle to upper income, you're likely to live into your mid-80s. Taking Social Security at age 62 provides a much lower stream of payments over your lifespan, but these people say you should pour it into the stock market to capture the higher than expected rate of return. Given the historical returns of the stock of 7% annually after inflation, they argue you're bound to come out ahead in the long run. Wow, why doesn't everybody do that, right? What the videos don't tell you is that so far at least, Social Security has always provided inflation-adjusted income risk-free. The stock market doesn't do that.
Let's say you're 62 years old and will live until 85. If you delay Social Security until you're 70, your inflation-adjusted monthly benefit will be 77% higher than if you start now. What about missing out on the stock market's higher return? Let's say stocks do return 7% annually after inflation. You get a $2,000 monthly Social Security benefit, and you put it all into stocks each year. In that case, if you start taking Social Security at 62 and live until 85, you'll amass just over $977,000. If you delay Social Security until 70 and then follow the same approach, you'll end up with just $830,000. On the other hand, what if stocks go down? If they lose 3% annually after inflation, which is far from impossible, then claiming at 62 and buying stocks every year would leave you at age 85 with only a bit more than $290,000. If instead you delay until 70, you'd have almost $383,000 by 85. That's why comparing stocks' past returns to Social Security risk-free inflation-adjusted payments isn't apples and oranges. It's like comparing a roller coaster to an escalator. Plus, what money are you going to live on in retirement? Withdrawals from the investment account?
Two trends have created a representative audience for the idea of taking Social Security early to bet on the stock market. For most of the past decade and a half, stocks have boomed, shrugging off every decline. And anyone with eyes or ears knows the fiscal recklessness in Washington is getting wider. Nearly 2.9 million people filed claims to initiate Social Security in the first 9 months of 2025, up 13% from the same period last year. The agency says fear-mongering has driven people to claim benefits earlier.
So I'm seeing this with some of my clients that they're afraid it's going to go broke, and so they're locking in their payments now.
That's right.
I see it too. But the U.S. government, which prints money at will sometimes, can keep kicking the can down the road. For a half a century, various budgetary band-aids have patched the program up. Even so, many finfluencers argue that with Social Security on shaky ground, your money will be safer in the stock market. If Social Security went under or slashed benefits, wouldn't that mean the entire U.S. economy was in desperate trouble? In that case, how could stocks be a good investment? Don't get me wrong, for millions of Americans, taking their benefits at the earliest opportunity isn't even a choice, it's an absolute necessity. If you need Social Security to help cover regular expenses, you have no other way of funding. You should feel no shame in claiming at age 62. Likewise, if your life expectancy is short, delaying Social Security often is not the best decision.
That's right. It would also be a shame if you had to sell some of your stocks, especially in a market downturn, to pay some of your living expenses. Taking Social Security early can reduce that the need to do that. And if you own bonds or other fixed income assets, selling those gradually instead of your stocks could be the best way to cover your cost of living while you delay claiming Social Security. That keeps your level of risk roughly the same over time. Spending from your fixed income portfolio instead of taking Social Security now enables you to earn more government guaranteed income later. There's enough leverage in today's financial markets. Don't add to it by borrowing from your future.
Here's what I wish is the government would come out with the plan. How are they going to fix this program so people will stop taking it early? Because I see this as a disaster because people don't realize how long they're going to live. And this money has got to last them a long time. So I need a plan. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, the politicians just want to keep kicking the can down the road because no one wants to make the changes to this program because it's a death nail for either party, whoever wants to do it.
Yep. All righty.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, we've seen this before. The California campaign to introduce a first-of-its-kind billionaires tax. A ballot initiative proposed by a healthcare workers union would take aim at the Golden State's richest residents with a one-time 5% tax on assets of individuals with net worths over $1 billion, with a B. This would mean pursuing assets like stocks, artwork, and intellectual property rights rather than income. The proposal represents an unprecedented effort to tax modern wealth, but it is far from assured. Supporters need about 875,000 signatures, and their plan could face serious challenges as it advances. Taxing vast fortunes that exist largely on paper could also pose significant logistical challenges. It would be the first in the world tax like this on the super wealthy, said Emmanuel Saez, an economics professor at the University of California, Berkeley, who has provided advice on the wealth tax plan. He said he hopes that the tax would be an example for the world to be imitated in many places. Oh, what a great idea. What a great guy. The effort could raise some $100 billion and is necessary to offset looming cuts to Medicaid passed by congressional Republicans and signed into law this year by President Trump.
All I can say is keep him in California, okay?
Right?
Well, the union plans to start collecting signatures in January. It had previously qualified for several measures for the California ballot, but withdrew some before they reached the voters. California has an estimated 255 billionaires last year, more than any other state, and 22% of the U.S. total. The estimates are based on business addresses, and not all of these people would necessarily be state residents subject to the new tax. For someone worth $10 billion, the union proposal would amount to $500 million on a one-time hit. High-profile opposition is starting to take shape. A campaign spokesman for Governor Gavin Newsom said the governor is against the measure, which I found surprising. And on Thursday, political strategists with ties to Newsom launched a political action campaign called Stop the Squeeze to oppose the tax campaign. Think of a large farmer who have lots of land, have been in the family for generations, and it's paid off. If these large farmers get hit with a $50 million tax bill, they could go out of business. These socialist strategies never work. Stop the spending would be a good place to start, in my opinion.
Agreed. The tax proposal, said campaign strategist Dan Newman, opens up a can of worms, sliding down a slippery slope.
I can visualize that.
Yeah, absolutely. By taxing cars, houses, wheelbarrows, and everything else. Opponents are raising concerns that more taxes could drive the ultra-wealthy from the state, creating future fiscal problems. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, a moderate Democrat, says that he does not know if people fully appreciate the vulnerability we face as a state when it comes to our revenue sources because more than one-third of the state's tax revenue comes from the top 1% of earners. The California effort builds on a push in many blue states to look for more ways to raise revenue from their wealthiest residents. Discontent over inequality helped power Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani to victory in New York City's mayoral race this month. He proposed a 2% tax on incomes over $1 million, which would require approval by the state legislature. Massachusetts voters in 2022 approved a 4% surtax on annual incomes over $1 million. Other states, including Connecticut, Washington, Maryland, and Rhode Island, have also proposed or implemented tax increases targeting affluent residents.
The California union approach goes further by targeting net worth rather than income or real estate. That means it could take a much larger bite of billionaires' wealth, only a fraction of which typically derives from annual income or realized capital gains. Recent research by economists found that 400 richest U.S. billionaires pay just 1.3% of their net worth in taxes.
And you see that blip in the news. Economists found that 400 richest people of the U.S. billionaires paid just 1.3% of their net worth in taxes. It's misleading. No one pays taxes on their net worth.
Right.
You pay taxes on your income.
Right.
And the more you make, the higher your income is going to be. So
People need to get their head around
when
this.
they put this stuff in here to make people angry.
Yep. You know, when I was a little girl, my parents went to play cards with their friends. They would let me spend the night with my grandmother, who was an amazing person. She was an immigrant from Norway. We would have dinner and then watch TV, and her favorite evening programs were Hee Haw and Mr. Bean. Jonathan, you've probably never seen either of those programs.
I remember Mr. Bean.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Mr. Bean was a British comedy, and he did not speak. And one episode has always stood out in my mind. He lives in an apartment and is making decent money, so he buys some nice artwork to hang on the walls. Then one day there's a knock on the door. "Hello, Mr. Bean. This is your tax collector coming to assess your assets." He looks terrified, then pulls all the paintings from the walls, hides them, and then opens the door for the tax collector, who walks around with his clipboard and finds nothing new and then leaves. Then he hangs all the paintings up again. We have talked about the billionaire tax before, and it would be very, very complicated to pull off. And Mr. Bean is just one tiny example of how people could work around it.
Yeah, the ultra wealthy have ways to skirt some of the new burden, but not all of them. There is another novel idea that the politicians never try: cut back on spending, balance the budget, and stop stealing from taxpayers.
Amen.
And you know,
What a concept.
Yeah, and you know the thing is, once they figure out they can't make up all their shortfalls, then they start saying, well, you know, let's start taxing all the millionaires, and then it comes down to the thousandaires, and then it's pretty soon let's start putting a 10% tax on everybody. You know,
Well,
it's
that's
just,
Why don't they work
Yeah.
for free?
yeah, exactly.
When they put it in this article, they said it's a slippery slope, and
It
it really is.
Yep.
It could get ugly fast.
That's right. All right. We have to have our scams here. So this is a new Social Security scam. It's making its rounds, trying to convince people that that their Social Security numbers may be suspended due to criminal activity. This warning was published by the Office of the Inspector General, or the OIG, for the Social Security Administration. Consumers reported losing more than $12.5 billion to fraud in 2024, according to the Federal Trade Commission. And adults 60 or over are most likely to report large money losses from scams. And this new high-pressure scam seeks to convince individuals that their Social Security numbers may be suspended due to criminal activities. Be aware, it is a scam. The scheme involves emails sent with the subject line, "Alert, Social Security account issued is detected." An attachment with fake letterhead purporting to represent the SSA OIG warns recipients that the Social Security numbers may be suspended within 24 hours and that their cases may be referred for criminal prosecution. The schemes typically use scary tactics to dupe victims into handing over their money, such as flagging suspicious activities on accounts, claiming their personal information is being used to commit crimes, or alleging that online accounts or other personal activities have been hacked.
When recipients of the fraudulent emails call the phone number provided, they may encounter someone impersonating a Social Security Administration employee who sometimes even uses a federal worker's real name. Alternatively, callers may be directed to send a text via an automated message. The SSA OIG, which provides independent oversight of the Social Security Administration, is warning recipients not to share their personal information in response to the notices. So, if you get an unexpected text, call, email, letter, or social media message from SSA OIG or any government agency, pause and think. Scam first. The person contacting you may not be who they claim to be. The SSA OIG will never send letters like this. If there's a problem with your Social Security account, they will send you an official letter.
Government imposter scams may also pretend to be from other agencies, such as the Social Security Administration, IRS, Medicare, or the Federal Trade Commission, for example. Other schemes may claim to represent well-known businesses. And like Randy said, in 2024, consumers reported losing more than $12.5 billion to fraud. That is a 25% increase over the previous year. Investment scams were the most common way to lose money, with $5.7 billion in losses reported by consumers in 2024, followed by imposter scams with $2.95 billion in losses.
Adults aged 60 and over are most likely to report losses of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars from scams. This is according to the FTC. The number of older adults who reported losing $10,000 or more to scams went up more than 4 times from 2020 to 2024, the agency reported in August. In those same years, the number of older adults who reported losing more than $100,000 jumped nearly 7x.
Wow.
To avoid becoming a victim, the FTC warns consumers targeted by these types of scams not to send or transfer money to anybody. Call a friend, ask for advice before you take any action. The agency also recommends independently verifying whether a phone number or website is real and talking to someone you know and trust before transferring the money. Blocking unwanted calls can also prevent scammers from contacting you in the first place, according to the FTC.
I also see a lot of clients who answer every cell phone call they receive, even if they don't know who it is from. I ignore all calls, then once or twice a day, I'll see if the call was from someone I know, then I'll return it. Not answering calls or responding to messages from people you don't know could help take some stress off your day and maybe save you some money. Because who knows who these people are?
I agree.
Yep.
And a lot of the scams, they try and put some sort of urgency in it
Yes,
to get people
always.
to fall for it.
Yeah.
And this needs to be done immediately. Call immediately.
That sense of urgency.
Yep.
In a more happy note, should I give my daughter my $300,000 house or gift her the cash to buy it? A mother who bought a house for $175,000 in 2001 is now weighing the options of gifting the home directly to her daughter or gifting her the money to buy the now $300,000 home. Her daughter is single now, but her longtime partner will probably marry her by the time she ends up selling it. She knows that she is going to give her daughter the house. She just doesn't know the best way to go about it. She could either just give it to her directly or she can gift her the cash and have her buy it outright. Either way, she'll need to file the gift tax form, and that's not any of her concern. She has no intention of reaching that $13.9 million lifetime cap. She likes the idea of just giving it to her. It seems like the super easy transaction, and that's kind of what she's thinking.
Yeah, if she gives her the money and then she buys the house, it's a little more complex. Her daughter gets the current value, which is $300,000 as the new cost basis, and reducing the chance that she would eventually have to pay capital gains. With the $250,000 tax exclusion, the value would need to exceed $500,000 before capital gains tax would need to be paid. That is, if she was married when she sold it.
The mom believes that this house would never significantly increase in value, but even the sleepiest neighborhoods have a habit of surprising you with their transformation. Consider that the home has almost doubled in value since she purchased it.
Yep. Option 1, gifting the house. If she gives her daughter the house, her daughter will get the cost basis of $175,000 rather than receiving a step up to the current market value. If she later sells the home for $500,000, her capital gain would be based on the $175,000 cost basis. However, if she lives there for at least 2 of the 5 years before selling, she may qualify for the capital gains exclusion of up to $250,000 for single or $500,000 if she's married.
Then comes option 2. If she instead gifted her daughter the money to purchase the home at its fair market value, she would file Form 709. She would then receive a cost basis equal to her purchase price, effectively giving her a step up now rather than later. However, if you might require long-term care within the next 5 years, gifting the property could affect your Medicaid eligibility due to the federal 5-year look-back period.
Yep, that's right.
Interesting.
All right, inheriting the house. If your heirs inherit the property when you pass away, they will receive a step up in basis to the fair market value at that time. Their property taxes, however, would be recalculated based on the market value. In many cases, waiting until inheritance can minimize capital gains exposure, but may increase future property taxes.
It's wonderful to want to give your kids such a generous gift, a mortgage-free life. It's also a good sign to be thinking ahead now about estate planning, both in terms of your kids' future and your own.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that if there's no urgency to give the daughter the house at all, then let her inherit it later.
Right.
That's going to be the best case scenario.
I agree.
Okay, the race to refinance makes mortgages more expensive for everybody else. Real estate agents have been known to advise prospective buyers to marry the house, not the rate. This means buyers should prioritize finding and buying a home that they love, even if rates are high, with the plan to refinance later when rates are more favorable. This strategy assumes that while your choice of home is a long-term commitment, your mortgage interest rate is a temporary variable that can be changed over time through refinancing. Now, Americans are jumping on opportunities to refinance and save money on their monthly mortgage payments. But what is the market going to make them pay for that privilege? The recent decrease in mortgage rates has led to a pop in the number of people who are looking to refinance home loans that they took out when rates were closer to 7 or 8%. The weekly refinance application activity index in mid-November was more than double what it was a year prior.
That isn't a surprising reaction to falling 30-year fixed mortgage rates. The weekly national average has gone from about 6.8% a year to about 6.3% now, according to Freddie Mac. But the extreme speed at which people are moving to find new rates has been startling. Historically, even people who always intended to refinance at some point have tended to wait until they have a big incentive in the form of a decline in rates. Refinancing can be a time-consuming process with cost ranging from appraisals to lawyers.
Yeah, and nowadays people are moving at a much faster pace than they used to. The pace of prepayments in October, over half the balances of mortgages with incentives to lower their interest rates by an average of three quarters of percentage points would be paid down early over the course of a full year. So why the rush? There's likely many drivers. Higher rates and higher home prices can mean that even the dollar savings of obtaining a somewhat lower rate are significant. Whatever the reason, actually doing so is getting easier for some borrowers.
Some mortgage origination firms have focused their businesses on both making loans and servicing them, meaning they collect the monthly payments. Servicing relationships enable those originators to be more effective in the pursuit of refinancing their own customers, giving them additional data and speeding the process. And with more of the transactions happening digitally, some originators are getting very good at capturing the refinancing of a servicing customer. So we thought we were going to stay in our house back in Warner Robins forever. So we had refied it to be paid off in 10 years. A few years later, we changed our minds and wanted something smaller, so we refied it back to a longer term and rented it for several years. The refi lowered the monthly payment and made it more profitable to rent. But I'll tell you, the refi literally took 15 minutes, and this was how many years ago? 12 at least. 12 years ago. It was 15 minutes at the credit union. They did it like bam. So they make it sound long and lengthy and all that. That's not what we experienced.
For non-bank mortgage firms, the retention rate for refinancing or servicing customers was 29% in the second quarter, according to the Intercontinental Exchange data. That was more than twice the rate for banks. This isn't just a change for home buyers, borrowers. The speed at which mortgage prepay, including through refinancing, is important to investors in mortgage loans and the bonds that pool them. One of the main risks of buying mortgage guaranteed by the government-backed agencies, which takes credit risk mostly off the table, is that they prepay early when interest rates fall. When that happens, investors have to reinvest that same money at lower interest rates, losing the benefit of a fixed rate. So when borrowers refinance more quickly than anticipated, bond investors can be caught off guard.
In turn, bond investors might seek additional compensation for that risk in the form of a higher yield. That in practice translates into a wider spread or gap between the yields on mortgage bonds and benchmark treasuries. And wider bond spreads can mean higher mortgage rates. Even though spreads on many forms of credit, such as corporate bonds, are historically tight, this isn't the case for so-called agency mortgage-backed securities, which are backed by government-sponsored enterprises such as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Adam Rylander, Chief Investment Officer at Bright Meadow, believes that one reason the spreads have widened is because borrowers are better at exercising prepayment options. But it will likely lead to higher mortgage rates in the long run, though, because there's a cost to it. The spread between yields on benchmark 30-year agency mortgage bonds and relevant treasuries is now around 1.3 percentage points, according to the Bank of America. Mortgage rates could be driven lower by a market view that overall interest rates will be lower for a longer period, or by more demand coming into the market for mortgage bonds. But spreads could remain elevated for as long as lenders fear speedy early repayment. So for borrowers, having the option to refinance later can mean paying more now.
All right. Let's talk about AI for a
Let
second.
me interject a side note. I was talking to a client this week who's he's an underwriter, a residential mortgage underwriter here in Middle Georgia. He said that they've had their best year since 2021. I said, to what do you attribute that? And he said, well, I mean, our rates, we're getting people in 30s for under 6 now. So these averages that we read, like 6.3 or whatever we just said, are probably national
average.
But here in Middle Georgia, he said we're able to get people under 6. And obviously we've talked about this, but buyers have a little bit more negotiating power now than they have in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And so it's all kind of, according to this guy who's boots on the ground, it's all leveling out and getting back to a normal, an acceptable normal. He said, for what it's worth, that he thinks 4.5 to 5 is a good rate on a 30. We don't need to go back to 2.5 because there's a lot of chaos that can follow that. We don't need to go back to 7.5 because that locks a lot of people out.
Yeah.
But he thinks 4.5, 5 is. So anyway, that comment.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So is he in Warner Robins or Macon or Middle Georgia in general?
He is in Warner Robins.
What does he say about the housing prices? Any comment on that?
Just that they're still inflated, but
Okay.
that they're at least, that was where we were talking about buyers at least being able to come back and say, well, I want the seller, you as the seller, to pay X or Y. And sellers who in the last 4 or 5 years have said, no way, I'll just sell it to the next guy.
Yeah.
Now are saying, okay, we'll pay that, or we'll fix this, or we'll do that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
That's
there's
good.
more coming to the meeting in the
progress.
middle.
Oh, good.
Progress.
Oh, this is good to hear.
Yeah.
Yep. Very
Awesome.
nice. That's good intel. All right. Let's talk about AI, and the benefits from AI are going to help a lot of companies, and some are going to die trying. Artificial intelligence is going to change the way many companies do business. That can mean big profits and gains for some and an existential threat to others. Tech giants such as Alphabet and Meta are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into AI. In the meantime, investors have rightly started to wonder which real-world companies will actually benefit from the new technology. One way to determine that is to look at companies with higher labor costs whose workforce is also exposed to AI automation. Goldman Sachs tried to answer this question by screening the Russell 1000 index for these companies. Goldman said that it limited the screen to companies that mentioned AI in recent earnings calls and excluded businesses with direct AI exposure, such as tech firms actually building AI models or companies providing closely related infrastructure. The results highlighted the opportunities and risks for investors. That list was rich with banks and professional service firms, but the single highest score belonged to tax preparer H&R Block.
Goldman Screen suggests the stock, which is trading at just 10 times forward earnings, enjoys a potential AI earnings per share boost of 51%. On H&R Block's most recent conference call, President Curtis Campbell mentioned this investment in AI moving forward and their ability to actually improve the productivity of our tax pros. The company added that its AI Tax Assist service, a product for DIY filers, has become one of its key offerings. Still, H&R Block stock has dropped 20% in the past 12 months, and it's not hard to see a future where AI ends up disrupting rather than empowering the tax prep industry. Tuesday, Intuit, parent of the rival tax service TurboTax, said it signed a $100 million deal with OpenAI to help market credit cards, personal loans, and answer tax questions. Similarly, Rocket Company, which also ranked high on Goldman's list, became one of the U.S. largest mortgage originators because its online and mobile tools simplified paperwork-heavy mortgage applications for millions of stressed homebuyers. The stock has gained 26% in the past year, and the market seems to be betting on its technology. Betting its technology could prove equally compelling in the AI era. But Rocket will almost certainly have to reinvent its popular tools, and sooner or later, an AI native competitor almost certainly will challenge it the same way Rocket once challenged traditional lenders.
Of course, not all firms on Goldman's list face such stark threats. Regional banks such as U.S. Bancorp and PNC have customer relationships, branches, and balance sheets that AI will never be able to replicate or replace. In addition to banks and other capital goods firms, Goldman's list included a number of service firms that will be going through major changes. One thing is clear: the AI revolution will almost certainly have unpredictable consequences.
Yep, agreed.
Another off-price retailer just turned more optimistic about its future. Ross Stores, Inc. joined TJ Maxx in turning more positive about the immediate future. The latest sign that financially stretched customers continue to flock to off-price apparel retailers seeking bargains. Ross Stores, ROST, which owns Ross Dress for Less and DD's Discount Stores, long have been a favorite for discount apparel shoppers. Plenty of investors believe that Ross stands to benefit as people see prices creeping up elsewhere in their budget and decide to trade down in apparel. Thursday's earnings beat and guidance raise, alongside a jump in same-store sales, reinforced that view. TJX, which also owns Marshalls, Home Goods, and other store brands, also raised its full-year outlook and beat expectations when it reported quarterly earnings.
Yep, TJX raised its same-store sales forecast for its fiscal fourth quarter, expecting them to be up 3 to 4%. Tariff-related costs are expected to be negligible in the quarter, according to the company. Based on results in the updated fourth quarter forecast, Ross upped its profit guidance for fiscal 25 to between $6.38 a share and $6.46 a share. That compares with Wall Street consensus expectations of $6.25 a share for the year. They're very optimistic about their prospects for the holiday season, driven by an ongoing focus on delivering quality, branded merchandise at exceptional value. Their approach continues to gain strong traction with the consumer, particularly in an environment of rising prices across mainstream retail. Ross stock rose nearly 3% in after-hours trading. Its shares have gained 6% so far this year, compared with an advance around 11% for the S&P 500 index, the SPX. But they have outperformed the index in the last 3 months, up 10% compared to the S&P's 2.2%. Discount stores in general are expected to do well this holiday season.
Amen.
Which I think you opened up the show with an article
Right.
about Thriftmas or whatever it was
Right.
called.
So those are the stories I've been shopping in for years, and I'm a clearance rack person, and I rarely pay full price for anything. It's just how I grew up, and it's stuck. So if you're willing to put in the time, you can find some name brand products at a fraction of the price, and it's very fun.
Okay, Roth conversions could trigger a tax torpedo under Trump's big beautiful bill. Roth individual retirement account conversions can reduce pre-tax balances and begin tax-free growth. However, the trade-off is the converted balance boosts your income, which can trigger other tax consequences. Higher earnings could cause an artificially higher rate due to phase-outs or benefit reductions from President Donald Trump's new tax breaks. If that happens, the tax cost of a Roth conversion could be higher than your marginal tax rate, which is the bracket that applies to your last dollar of income. As year-end approaches, many investors are navigating Trump's tax changes that apply to 2025 and will impact returns filed in 2026. Many tax strategies must be completed by December 31st, which leaves limited time for key 2025 moves. Some of Trump's new tax breaks, like the $6,000 deduction for older Americans or bigger limit for state and local tax deduction, known as SALT, have made 2025 Roth conversions more complicated. And many of the new deductions have phase-outs, which reduce or eliminate the tax break entirely once income reaches a certain level. Without that deduction, you could raise your effective tax rate or taxes paid as a percentage of total income.
You could also lose access to the 0% long-term capital gain tax rate, which allows you to sell profitable assets without paying taxes, among other issues. That's why investors should run tax projections before adding more earnings via Roth conversions. Of course, Roth conversions that eliminate a deduction could still make sense, depending on your long-term goals. In some cases, the tax savings from years of compound Roth account growth could exceed a single-year deduction. Every case is different, so please speak with your CPA or your investment advisor before doing anything.
Phase-out issues for all income ranges. While Trump's tax law changes added more complexity, other income phase-outs for tax breaks were already sprinkled throughout the tax code. For example, there are income limits for the child tax credit, the student loan interest deduction, and the education tax breaks, among others. So everyone could face these phase-outs or credits and deductions. So be watchful and speak with a financial professional. Don't be led astray by the mass media and social media influencers who always try the one-size-fits-all approach.
Amen.
Very good.
I think Roth conversions in general, they're a complicated, more complicated than than I think meets the eye. And so we can't emphasize enough to get advice.
Get advice.
Talk to your CPA.
Before you do it, because
Yep.
it could have some very unintended, like not bad, I don't want to be dramatic, but some consequences that you didn't see coming and that could definitely be a curveball.
Especially as you're approaching Medicare.
For sure.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. So geothermal's time has finally come. This source of energy could become bigger than nuclear. The future of clean energy is unfolding on a desert plateau about 4 hours northeast of Las Vegas. Dotted around the spectacular sands near Milford, Utah, are nearly 24 wells, each reaching deep into the earth where the rocks are permanently hot. These 10 drilling rigs could help produce a gigawatt of new output per year. That is as much as a typical nuclear reactor, enough to power 1 million homes. The firm Fervo has acquired over 500,000 acres of geothermal mineral rights across the U.S., which could possibly generate over 50 gigawatts of electricity. So doing the math, that could power 50 million homes.
Yep. Fervo is a buzzy geothermal technology. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
Geothermal technology, started backed by Google and other high-powered tech investors who want to turn a once-neglected source of energy into a powerhouse. The privately held firm, valued at some $1.4 billion, will start producing electricity next year in the first phase of a 500 megawatt deal with the power division of Shell, an oil company, and with the California utility. That is the largest commercial contract agreed for geothermal electricity in the industry's history. It is a first shot of in a geothermal revolution. Today's less than 1% of global and American energy comes from geothermal, but researchers at Princeton University predict that technical innovations mean widely available geothermal power could, by 2050, produce nearly triple the current output of the country's nuclear power plant, which supplies roughly 20% of America's electricity at present.
Which is just amazing.
It is, because geothermal can offer clean energy around the clock. It is a perfect match for incessant power needs for the data center. Geothermal's environmental credentials are stellar. Like wind and solar, it emits virtually no greenhouse gases during its operations. And because Earth's deep rocks are hot all the time, geothermal can provide a reliable energy around the clock, unlike other intermittent renewable energy sources. So there is so much more to this article, and we are running short on time here, but this is a very fascinating article. So if you're interested in geothermal and want to know more about it, we did download the entire article and printed it out. So if anybody is interested in this, just call the office here at 478-922-8100. It's much more than we could possibly put in the last, 50 seconds that we have here. So
And we'll just email it to you.
we'll just email it to you. And so just call the office here again at 478-922-8100. And we are down to the last 45 seconds. So Sherry, Jonathan, Corey, do you have any last parting shots?
All the news that comes at us at 1,000,000 miles an hour about power and batteries, and
Yes.
I'm just ready for news where it's like, hey, we have this new alternative power that doesn't have this major, huge side effect.
Yeah.
Because that's what it all seems to be thus far is we've got these batteries, but how do you dispose of them without?
And geothermal is something my dad was very interested in when I was growing up. He wanted to plow up the entire front yard and put some kind of tubing in the ground. And
We had friends when I was working in Atlanta that they had this in their front yard.
That's right. All right. Well, we're at the end of the show, and we thank you, everyone, for tuning in to us, and we will catch up with you next week.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100 to set up a free consultation. You can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. If you have a question or topic you'd like for us to address in a future broadcast, email Randy at rfmoney.com. We look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.